Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of our concert reviews. So as promised, we are here today to review last night's Kansas show at the Beacon Theater in New York City, Saturday, December the 14th. We got a special guest here to do it with us because he was sitting right there next to me the whole evening, Mr. Jeff Young from X of Megadeth, solo artist, guitarist extraordinaire, and host of the Music Without Boundaries internet radio show. Jeff, welcome to the show once again.
Aloha, amigos. Apparently, we are in Kansas anymore.
I think exactly.
I said that last night right before the show. A bunch of people around us had a good chuckle on that.
Yes, we lifted off to Kansas last night. So for those of you who don't know, last night was a very, very special show in that it was the only performance of the entire tour where Kansas were going to be playing both Leftoverture and Point of No Return in their entirety. That's right. First time ever. Okay. But of course, that was peppered with some other fantastic songs from their discography before and after. And we're going to get into the full set list. But Jeff and I discussed, and we want to kind of take you guys through the whole evening because it was a pretty fun night altogether. Started off with some great kind of Mexican themed California street food beforehand, right around the corner from the Beacon, which was delightful, right? Tacos and short ribs and guacamole and some nice cold drinks, and
so delicious and delectable.
Absolutely.
That meal was.
It was definitely
Playa Betty's.
Playa Betty's, that's right.
So if you're in New York near the Beacon, people, it's right next door. How handy was that?
It was great. It was great. But I do recommend everybody make a reservation because the place was jumping. Jumping. So we went from there to the venue, 8 o'clock start time. We mingled about in the lobby for a little bit. We ran into Ken Pierce from Piercing Metal was there, and we met one of our viewers, our loyal viewers, Connor. Very nice to meet you. He came up and introduced himself and his dad. Very nice to meet you both. It's always great to meet some of our viewers here. And what about 8:05? Well, we actually did a live Facebook feed for about 10 minutes before the show started, which was a lot of fun. We had a lot of viewers jumping on and chatting with us, and it was just meant to be fun, and it was a lot of fun. We were just kind of clowning around with the people sitting around us. And
if they missed that live, they got to go back and catch that. It was all the rage.
That's right. It's sitting there on the Facebook page. Yep, that was a lot of fun.
Your viewers were enjoying the proceedings, and you get to see. You turn the phone around and showed the Beacon, and
a gorgeous place.
It was a fun evening.
It was
even before the show started, and then
okay. So let me. I want to make sure I get all the songs right here. So we basically started off with "People of the Southwind," which
an acoustic set.
That's right, acoustic set. Acoustic set, and which was, I thought, incredible. I generally don't go for acoustic sets for whatever reason. I don't know. The whole unplugged thing for me, never been a huge fan, but I thought last night's worked really well because you had basically the whole band out there except for Phil Ehart, the drummer, going through a couple tracks. What they do, 4 tracks in total, which was really good. And I was very happy to hear People of the Southwind, of course, off the Monolith album, kind of starting it all off because it was
brilliant. It was the perfect show opener, them coming out. I was getting chills. I was almost in tears by, the second or third tune of that acoustic set.
Well, and I was going to bring that up because I remember when you mentioned it to me, I felt the same way. So they went from People of the Southwind to Hold On, which is a great tune, right? Ronnie Platt, he's not so new of a singer anymore. He's been with the band a few years. But he was like spot on all night. He was great on Hold On. And they played Refugee off of their most recent studio album, The Prelude Implicit, which was great. But I think for me, one of the highlights of that early acoustic set and maybe the whole evening was Lonely Wind. And Jeff actually turned to me towards the end of it and he goes, "That was amazing. I almost teared up." And I already was. So I was like, dude, you're right there with me. I mean, it was so emotional, so melodic, it's a great song anyway, and Ronnie's voice was spot on, and you had,
he's a brilliant, underrated singer. Where's he been hiding all my life? That cat, his stage presence, he kind of had a little bit of the Walsh vibe. He wanted to pay tribute and keep that vibe, but really energetic and just, really cool energy. He was cool, not showboaty.
Not at all.
And he really fed the songs with his hand motions and his body postures. And
he was animated, but not too much. It was
exactly.
It was perfect. And I got the impression, because, some, all about this, right? Some singers want it to be me, me, me. Everything's got all the attention's got to be on me, right?
Oh, really, Pete? You don't say.
LSD, right? Yeah, exactly. So, but I didn't get that from him at all. I think that he was very supportive of everything that was going on stage, and he just wanted to be a cog in the machine, which I thought was really great. By the way, he was in one of the last lineups of Shooting Star. That's the band I couldn't remember last night. You remember them, right? So yeah, he was in Shooting Star toward the latter part of their career. So there was no intermission last night, which was great. They actually went from playing this acoustic set.
Don't skate over that. How they went from the acoustic set, the stage blacked, and the Phil Inhart hits the first beat, and they're into it.
That's right. It was right
so cool. They're playing this acoustic, the stage blacks, the drum comes.
Right at the end of Lonely
Wind.
Exactly. Right at the end of Lonely Wind. And all of a sudden the full band starts playing, and there's Phil blasting away behind the drum kit. That was awesome. It was really cool. In fact, we were both like, whoa, that was awesome. That was really cool. And from then they went right into Leftoverture, right? So they had the road crew came out and took out all the acoustic stuff in the chairs and everything. And they went right into, of course, the entire Leftoverture album. So Carry On Wayward Son, which, everybody got on their feet, right? Of course. Jeff and I joked about this all night long. It's like, you have a portion of the crowd who's just there to hear that and like one or two other songs.
That annoying broad in front of us, for example. Jesus. But check it out, people. The very first thing I noticed in the transition from the acoustic set into the amplified full-blown band show was, it's, I think, the only concert in my lifetime, and I've seen a few, played a few, where the sound was at the appropriate volume. Not too loud, not too soft, just right. The drums, sound men are notorious for spending like 4 hours on the drum kit, getting this drum so loud and obnoxious in the PA, and then they spend like 20 minutes on the rest of the band, and it's just a shit show. I was blown back by the sound, and I brought my earplugs and left them in my pocket.
I had them in my hand, ready to go, right at the end of the acoustic set. And you know what? For one song in, I was like, you know what? I don't need these. And back in my pocket they went.
I mean, it sounded like an album coming off the stage. Every instrument in its place. You could hear everything.
Yep.
Best sound, hands down, of any show I've ever seen.
Yeah.
My history of shows.
It was great. It was great. And that place acoustically is always spot on anyway. But I think last night was just really special. And you could hear both guitar players perfectly. Okay, the violin, there was only one hiccup the entire evening, and then we'll get to that in a little bit. But I think, and Ronnie, the singer, sounded amazing the whole night. The drums were perfect. The keyboards, we'll get to that too. We should probably talk a little bit about the band. So you've got Philly Hart and Rich Williams, obviously the original members. Rich on drums, Rich on guitar, Phil on drums. You've got Ronnie Platt on vocals and keyboards. You've got Billy Greer on bass, who's been with the band for 35 years. And lead vocals and backing vocals. Yep.
Now, answer me this, because I saw Kansas back on their heyday. It was Leftoverture. Probably they were opening for somebody. Did the bass player always sing those lines? Like he sang most of the verses in Sparks of the Tempest, or was that?
No, Robbie Steinhardt did. The old violin player sang all the co-lead vocals with Walsh. So he's basically taken his role.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. And he's been in the band now for, like I said, I think like 35 years or something like that. So a long, long time. And then we've got hold on, I'm just pulling up I want to make sure I get all the names right here. Where are we? Okay, so, and we've got on violin, rhythm guitar, and backing vocals, and he played a lead or two, I think, during the night, David Ragsdale, and he's been in the band since, I think, the early 90s, so he's been around quite a bit.
He played a few leads, my friend.
And he's a good musician.
His tone was killer with the Strat, a perfect complement to the man with the patch on the other side. And he
right.
played some keys on a tune. Remember, he went back there.
Exactly. That's Zach Rizvi. So he's the other guitar player.
I thought you were mentioning him.
Yeah, no, David Ragsley I was talking about before on the violin and
the
guitar.
violin.
Yeah. But he also played some solos as well. But yeah, Zach Rizvi has been, I don't think he's been in the band that long, maybe 2 or 3 years. And I thought his Strat sounded killer last night.
Yeah.
And like you said, he went back and played keyboards on one tune. And then the newest guy in the band who
Holy
exactly. Tom Brislin on keyboards, ex of Yes and Camel and Alan Parsons. He
reminded me, like, I don't have my glasses, so I couldn't see him really clearly until I saw a picture of him today. He reminded me of Don Fagen, just like how he looked, but his presence for a keyboard player. Keyboard players notoriously uncool on stage.
He was totally
cool. Was the coolest.
And he was so animated.
His keyboards, animated, and his sounds. Yeah, he had the greatest keyboard sounds.
He did. And I just love, like, every time he was playing a solo, he just started whipping that other hand while the left hand was going nuts. It was just really, really cool. And he was going back and forth between both of them. And I mean, I've always known he's really talented. I've never actually caught him live before. And I was pretty impressed.
Let's tell him about the bands. That cat's played in a couple up and coming bands, hasn't he?
Just a little bit. Yeah. Like I said, he played with Yes briefly. He played with Camel for a number of years and Alan Parsons Project. And I'm sure he's done some other stuff. Let me just look that up here, because the guy's got a serious resume. He played with Meatloaf. He played with Renaissance. He played with The Sea Within with Roy Stoll from the Flower Kings and a bunch of other dudes. He's played with Debbie Harry. So the guy's been around. Yeah, he's been around. He's quite good. So a great band. That just, they really
tide is high with that guy. He's killer, man. And how about the color of the drum kit?
Yeah.
That blue, opalescence blue, so beautiful.
It was.
I mean, I never even comment or notice that kind of stuff, but it was just so beautiful. Let's also comment about their amazing backdrops, breathtaking.
Yes. Yeah.
And they were hand painted with certain elements that glowed.
Yep.
You know, when in the darkness, even.
You actually said to me before they even took the stage, you said, wow, the stage looks beautiful. And they hadn't even, we didn't even see the backdrop yet, or just the way it was presented. The lights were well done. Yeah, the backdrops of both albums were dynamite. It was just really, really well done. So back to the music. So Carry On Wayward Son, of course, started things off on the Leftoverture set in a big way. The Wall was probably one of my favorites of the night. That was really, really good. Really good. What's on My Mind followed, of course. Then Miracles Out of Nowhere. I was singing like a madman during that. Opus Insert came up next. Questions of My Childhood. Cheyenne Anthem. And then, of course, Magnum Opus.
Oh, Lordy. I was like, I'm playing that on the radio show.
You said halfway through the song, you're like, I got to play this on the radio show on Tuesday. I'm like, yeah, you should. That is a pretty crazy prog rock epic. So,
I mean, flawless performance from the band. They were going for it. I mean, I hope they filmed it. I didn't see any camera action.
Either. If they didn't, it's a missed opportunity, because that was.
I mean, sometimes the venues charge, and it can be expensive to do that kind of a full-blown shoot. But I'm sure they recorded it for prosperity.
And maybe we'll see a live album from it. I mean, that's at least that would.
We could only hope.
Yeah. No intermission. So all they did was they changed the backdrop. So all of a sudden you saw the Point of No Return album cover came out, and they blasted. I mean, did they even speak, or is that when they introduced the band members? I think that's when they might have done that. I don't even remember.
Yeah, then the bassist introduced
Billy Greer. Yeah. So that might have been when that happened. But then they blasted into the title track, Point of No Return, and then you had all these great tunes that I've never seen them play live before. Paradox, The Spider. The instrumental. I mean, I don't think they've ever played that live to my knowledge.
Played that on the show last week. Some guy commented on one of my pictures today. He'd seen him a few years ago. And I even posted the set list. He's like, yeah, they played basically the same exact show. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they didn't.
When? Yeah.
I don't think they've played any of those two albums in their entirety.
No, they haven't.
Ever, right?
Well, you know what it is? They played. Oh yeah, all right. So they
Leftoverture. Didn't they do a?
They did a full tour with that, and on this tour, they're mainly just playing the Point of No Return. So I guess my point before was that even though we saw some of these, I saw some of these tunes for the first time ever this night. They've been playing, but before this tour, they never played the Spider. So yeah, they did the Leftoverture tour. Now they're doing the Point of No Return tour. But here they're playing them both together, which is amazing. Portrait He Knew, Closet Chronicles, which I've never seen them play live. Lightning's Hand was also one of the best tunes of the
Portrait, dude.
Yeah, Portrait.
So good.
Yep. Lightning's Hand, Dust in the Wind, of course. Everybody went berserk again for that.
That was where the sound faux pas happened, and I felt so bad because that first violin solo when it comes in, da, 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 it wasn't there, and he's turning up his on the violin his volume, and it's not coming up, and then the guy has to run out on stage, and something either came unplugged or he had a mute button. And it was almost at the end of the solo, they got him back in.
Yeah, and Ragsdale, he was a pro. He just kept playing, even though he knew nothing was coming out. But that was the only hiccup on the whole evening. So, and then we had Sparks of the Tempest, which was killer.
Love it. I was waiting for that all night.
Yep.
It's my favorite off that album.
Yeah, it's a great tune. Again, a tune I've never seen them play live before. Nobody's Home, and then Hopelessly Human finished up the main part of the set. And so all night we were like going.
Guess what happened next, people? A humongous standing ovation from everyone in the venue, and I can only imagine people down the street.
Yeah. It was well deserved. And then the Encores. I called both the Encores.
Yeah,
I called them.
So I was still hoping for. You know what I want.
Can I tell you? Can I just tell you what you were hoping for?
Well, I loved the songs they did, but the one I was waiting for.
All night long, Jeff was wanting to hear that. Yep. But we got Song for America and Icarus Born on Wings of Steel, which two of my favorite Kansas tracks. So I was happy as a pig in shit to finish it all off. And everybody was just going nuts. It was just really, really cool. And for me, I've seen Kansas. I think this was the 5th or 6th time I've seen them in my life. And I think easily this was the best show I've ever seen. And one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. I've seen some really good concerts this year. I've gone to less shows this year than I have in a long time, but I've kind of picked and choose what I've gone to see. And I think there have been some really memorable concerts in 2019. That was at the top of the list. I leaned over to Jeff halfway through and I said, God, this might even be better than the King Crimson show we saw a few months back, which was great, right? This was pretty special, I thought. I don't know. It's hard to, they're both so different, but both really
not a bad first two shows for us as our first concert going experiences together, eh?
That's right. Not too bad. So crowd was pretty well behaved last night, I thought.
Except the girl in front of us in the midst of all this beautiful progressive music. I looked down and she's scrolling her Facebook news feed.
Bored out of her mind.
Yeah. Whack her on the back of the head.
Yeah. I don't understand people who do that. Why come to a show like this? And it's not like I don't think she was even there with like her husband or boyfriend. She was there with another girl, another woman, and they both were just kind of sitting down like totally disinterested. It's like, really? You came and paid the money just to see like one or two songs, and the rest of it's just not that interesting to you? I don't know. Why go then?
I mean, that's a gift of musicianship. Yeah. How ungrateful and just... I don't get people like that. I
don't either, but whatever. That's their loss, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we had fun. We had a lot of cool people sitting around us enjoying themselves, and I had a great time. The show was over by 10:30, right about 10:30. So it was a fairly early-ish evening, which was kind of nice, and I loved it. It was great. So if you guys, unfortunately, last night was the only show on the tour that they're doing this whole back-to-back album thing, but you can catch them anytime on this tour doing the Point of No Return album, which is really, really cool. And hopefully if you've seen them in the last year or two, you've gotten to see the Leftoverture tour, but to see them both back-to-back.
That's the beauty. And I get that same feeling when you talk about that you were in the audience at the Heaven and Hell show when they recorded that album, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They may not have filmed it last night. Again, a missed opportunity if they didn't, because they performed so stellar. But even if we get an album, and the fact we were there to see and witness that would be quite a thing.
Yeah, pretty cool. And Jeff made a comment last night. He was like, man, if they decided to take this concept, playing the both albums on the road full time, they could pack much larger arenas than what probably they normally play in. Because last night, probably a large, the Beacon Theater is not tiny. It fits, I'm not sure exactly how many people fit, 4,000, three or 4,000, something like that. That's pretty good for Kansas nowadays. And I think that if they were to take this double album thing and do a lot more dates, I think they could really make some good cash for themselves and draw the crowds in. I mean, Styx a bunch of years ago did the Grand Illusion Pieces of 8 tour, and they were playing bigger theaters, okay? And that was pretty cool to see as well. And I think now this whole, like, playing classic albums, the Doobie Brothers came a year and a half ago to the Beacon, and they played The Captain and Me and that other classic album of theirs. And it's like, people like that kind of stuff,
With this lineup and the level of performance, I mean, what a bookend on their career that would be to do that.
Yep. So,
but they did it, and we were there. So all we need to know is
that's it. Hey, I experienced it. I enjoyed it. So I was there. That's all that matters. Yeah, it was very, very cool. But we'll see what happens. Apparently, they're going to have another new album next year.
Mm-hmm.
So
I saw that.
Follow up to the Prelude Implicit. So
with this lineup, how good's that going to be?
Yeah.
And I got to say, I've been neglecting my Kansas. We all do this with certain bands. I loved them. I used to figure out the stuff off the record, off these albums, slowing down Sparks of the Tempest solos. And, I could probably still pick up my guitar and play Carry On My Wayward Son. I've played it so many times, but, you start listening to a bunch of different music and you forget about a band for a while. And they just jump to the top of my memory banks. I'm listening to all their stuff over again. And they definitely climbed up my list of all-time favorite bands last night.
Yep.
Way high on the list now.
I was driving around with a friend of mine this afternoon and talking about the show last night. And I said to him, I said, I've always liked Kansas since I was a kid. But I've really grown to appreciate them even more, like in the last 5-10 years, like big time. Like they've gone from like a band I really like to a band I really love and that I listen to more now than I ever did back then. And I listened to them quite a bit back then, but you're absolutely right. There's like so much to there's so many great deep cuts, that are just like hearing them nowadays, going back and listen to the Mask album and listen to all these Leftoverture songs and listening to the first album and, Monolith. It's just like, man, this stuff is great. It's like, I know they were a fairly big band, but they probably could have been bigger. And I know a lot of people, when you talk about like progressive rock and U.S. progressive rock, I know there are a lot of folks out there who were like, oh, there was never any good U.S. prog rock bands. All the best ones were from Britain, Yes, and Jen, and we get that. Those are the legends. But man, Kansas ranks right up there as far as I'm concerned with any of them.
And we neglected to mention it was very classy of them. It was early in the show when they played that first song that Steve Walsh off Leftoverture wrote. I think it was like towards the end of the set, and they mentioned this is a song written by Steve Walsh, and that was very, very cool.
Yeah,
I mean, such an identifiable voice to replace.
Well, he left on
Native
great
American terms. Wild man, Mr. Walsh. He was a one of a kind, and I mean, he had just the purest voice, but powerful. And to find another singer that has that, I mean, they pulled off nothing short of what Journey did when they found Arnell here with this cat.
Yep.
I really respect that singer a lot after last night.
Yeah, I was very impressed. And I've seen them with Ronnie before, but he was absolutely spot on, perfect all night last night. I thought there was, perfection. And he can hit a lot of those Walsh tones and what have you, but he's not a copycat, I don't think.
Right.
But he does the songs justice.
But it sounds close enough that, like, if you shut your eyes, you're not necessarily thinking it's a different cat.
Right.
I went back and watched some Walsh stuff, early and later stuff. I wasn't missing him. I gotta confess. And I want to say that Leftoverture, I was talking about that with Don, such a clever album title. I think that's one of the most genius album titles ever. Leftoverture. And then the album cover painting for Point of No Return is, I think, also genius. All their album covers are so majestic and
yeah, they are
magical. And I love the Native American themes and lyricism that's always been woven throughout their tunes.
Yep.
I agree. Throughout the years. Yep. And that really resonates.
A genius band. I think we both can agree on that. So a great night at the Beacon Theater in New York City. Kansas playing all of Leftoverture and Point of No Return and some other favorites. I had a blast. Jeff had a blast. It was a pleasure hanging with you again, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to do it
I guess all that's left to do now is to have everybody tune in Tuesday night.
That's right.
And we'll blast a bunch of Kansas, and we'll talk a little more. I'll get you on the show, and let's listen with big ears to these guys.
Sounds good. So where can everybody find that? If you don't know, you should, but Jeff will let you know where.
www.jeffyoungjams.com. Tuesday nights, 7:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4:11 West Coast time, just in time for 4:20, and whatever time it is wherever you are, people.
That's right. So tune in to Music Without Boundaries Tuesday night. It should be fun. Jeff's got
we got a new theme, like a new format.
New format. Yep.
It's we did last few weeks some instrumental excursion shows, and the response was so famous and fabulous. We were talking about LSD earlier in this segment, so. And I kind of thought there's never really been a radio station that really just focuses primarily on instrumental music, but peppers like really cool, high caliber vocal music throughout. You know, not a lot of screaming, shouting, rapping, screeching, you know, that kind of stuff. Beautiful singers like Mr. Pratt and Mr. Walsh, you know, Jeff Buckley, Pat Benatar, you name it. You know who all the great singers are. So that's the new format. People are really loving it, you know, because vocal music's great, but sometimes with instrumental music, you can really, as a listener, just be free almost every time you hear even the same song to take it, you know, somewhere else and imagine, you know, a different journey every time you listen.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, they tend to focus on the more vocals repertoire. So a lot of the instrumental tunes you're probably playing are probably new to a lot of people. They're hearing these for the first time.
And stuff that probably's never seen the light of day on any radio show anywhere.
Absolutely.
It's about time, I think, to right that wrong and get, you know, I have so much music. I got so much instrumental music in my catalog that's unplayed on my show even today. So we're up in the instrumental game around here.
That's right.
You guys can tune in. We got a chat at jeffyoungjams.com. Me and Peter are always in there. Feel free to request. And that's all the news that's fit to print. We'll see you guys tonight.
That sounds good. And in the meantime, make sure, speaking of instrumental music, make sure you check out Jeff's new video and song, his rendition of Something. Okay, it's available on YouTube and all the various outlets. So make sure you do not miss that. It's really, really good.
Little reimagining of George Harrison's beautiful tune that he wrote.
That's right. And the holidays are coming up. Jeff Young offers Skype guitar lessons. I wanted to make sure to mention
stocking stuffers, people.
Yeah.
For yourself, your family, friends, children. I teach all levels, most styles. Just try to stay clear of the polkas, you know. Point you towards an accordion teacher for that.
So check out that. If you're interested in learning some new techniques and licks, Jeff can certainly help you out that, whether you're interested in rock or jazz or metal or pop or what have you, blues.
Flamenco.
Flamenco. That's right. So cool. All right. Well, Jeff, thanks again for joining us here. This was a great recap of our wonderful Kansas experience last night. Everybody visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. Right. So stay tuned. Tomorrow morning, we are going to see who won our triple threat double elimination round for Classic Live Album Wars. And then round 5 will begin, the final 8. So we've got 4 rounds coming up tomorrow, 4 videos. Okay. and we'll see who's going to make it all the way to the finals and be crowned your favorite live album of all time. So for Jeff Young, I am Pete Pardo. We'll see you guys tomorrow. See you Tuesday night on Jeff's show. Jeff, say goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen, my friends.
Ciao, everybody. Bye-bye.